Welcome back to the deep dive, everybody. Ready to go beyond the headlines and really get into the weeds on Bitcoin?
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. So today we're tackling Bitcoin, but not the usual price predictions or breaking news. We're looking at the bigger picture, the underlying trends, and what they might mean for Bitcoin's future.
So it's good.
Yeah, we've got some really interesting sources today, some leaning bullish, some a bit more cautious, but all grounded in what's actually happening in the Bitcoin world right now.
Right.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll have a much clearer picture of those different perspectives, and hopefully you'll walk away with even more knowledge to form your own informed opinion about where Bitcoin might be headed.
I like it.
So, let's jump right in. Now, you might think, with everything going on, having the Bitcoin ETFs getting approved, that Bitcoin would be, taking off like a rocket right now.
Right, that's the logical assumption.
Right. But the reality is, things are playing out a bit differently this time around.
Yeah, this halving cycle feels different. It's like, when you have a birthday coming up, weeks before, you're super excited, but by the time the actual day arrives...
It's already old news.
Exactly. The anticipation, the excitement, it was already priced in.
Interesting. So you're saying that the market kind of baked in the halving effect ahead of time?
Exactly. And if you look at sentiment gauges, which basically measure the overall mood of the market, they're not showing extreme bullishness, but they're not overly bearish either.
So no one's really freaking out, but no one's going all in either.
Pretty much. And then there's the MVRV ratio, which basically tells us if most Bitcoin holders are sitting on a profit or a loss. And right now it's showing that, a lot of holders are in the green.
They're making money.
Right. But they're not rushing to invest more. They're hesitant.
So people are holding on to their Bitcoin, holding on to their profits, but not necessarily betting big on the future just yet. What's behind that hesitation, do you think?
Well, one factor that's often overlooked is global liquidity, basically. How much money is flowing around in the global economy. And Bitcoin is incredibly sensitive to this.
Okay, so more money sloshing around usually means good things for Bitcoin.
Exactly. Think about those periods of quantitative easing where central banks were pumping trillions into the system. That kind of massive cash injection, that really fueled Bitcoin's rise.
I see.
Now we are seeing interest rate cuts, which could signal more liquidity coming, but it's not the same as those huge QE programs.
Right, it's not that flood of cash that we saw before.
Exactly. So even with the halving, even with ETFs, the overall global liquidity situation is playing a big role in why Bitcoin isn't surging right now.
So it's like the fuel for the rocket just isn't quite there yet, even if everything else seems ready for liftoff. That's a crucial insight. I think a lot of people miss that connection.
Okay, so we've got this kind of wait-and-see vibe going on with Bitcoin's price. But our second source, it takes a totally different angle. It paints this picture of huge potential. But it's not about trading. It's about what's being built on top of Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff.
It's all about these decentralized applications, these dApps we keep hearing about, especially in decentralized finance, DeFi. This is where things get really interesting, right?
For sure.
So help me out here. This whole dApp revolution, what's the big deal? Why should people even care about this stuff?
Well, imagine a financial system that's actually accessible to everyone, not just those with traditional bank accounts.
Okay, listening.
That's the promise of dApps built on Bitcoin. Microloans, global trade, even building a credit history, all without needing a bank.
Whoa. So instead of relying on these big institutions, you're basically cutting out the middleman. Precisely. And it's all powered by the same secure and decentralized network that underpins Bitcoin itself.
Okay, now that's a powerful concept, but how does this actually work in practice? Can you give me a concrete example?
Absolutely. Let's say you're a farmer in a developing country. You need a small loan to buy seeds for the next harvest.
Okay, tough situation.
Right. Instead of navigating a complex and often restrictive banking system, you could use a dApp built on Bitcoin.
Interesting.
This dApp connects you directly with lenders around the world. You get the funds you need quickly and efficiently, and the lenders benefit from a transparent and potentially more profitable investment.
So it's a win-win for everyone involved.
In theory, yes. Of course, there are challenges to overcome, like ensuring the security and reliability of these dApps.
Right, there are always two sides to every coin. But I'm looking at this stat from the source, and it says that over 99% of Bitcoin is currently inactive. It's just sitting there, not being used in these potentially revolutionary dApps. That seems like a missed opportunity.
Yeah, it's like having this incredible infrastructure in place, but most people haven't figured out how to use it to its full potential. If even a fraction of that inactive Bitcoin starts flowing into dApps,
Things could really take off.
it could be a game changer.
It's like having a super fast highway, but everyone's still driving on dirt roads.
Exactly. And with technological advancements like the Taproot upgrade, we're essentially paving those highways, making it easier and more efficient to build and use dApps.
So Taproot is kind of like the infrastructure upgrade that's needed to unlock the full potential of these dApps.
Precisely. Think of it like this. Before Taproot, building on Bitcoin was like trying to build a skyscraper on a tiny plot of land. Taproot expands that plot, providing a much more stable and versatile foundation to create more complex and sophisticated applications.
So it's not just about Bitcoin's price, it's about the revolutionary potential of the technology it enables.
Exactly. This is about creating a more inclusive and accessible financial system,
Yeah.
one that empowers individuals and levels the playing field on a global scale.
I mean, this is definitely a lot to wrap my head around. On one hand, we've got Bitcoin seemingly stuck in a holding pattern, but on the other, we have this whole other dimension of its potential with dApps and DeFi just waiting to be fully realized.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time to be following Bitcoin, that's for sure.
So for someone listening to this, trying to make sense of it all, what's the key takeaway?
I think it's about understanding that Bitcoin is more than just a digital asset. It's a revolutionary technology with the potential to reshape our world.
It's bigger than just the price.
Way bigger. Focus on the long-term vision, not just the short-term fluctuations. Explore the technology, understand its capabilities, and ask yourself how it might impact your life and the world around you.
Don't just follow the hype. Understand the why behind it.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, and in the world of Bitcoin, that's never been truer.
Knowledge is power, for sure. But it's easy to get caught up in the hype cycle. Like you said, we see the price swings, the headlines, and it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture.
It's true. People get excited about the idea of making a quick profit, and they forget to ask the important questions. What is this technology really capable of? How could it change things in the long run?
It reminds me of those early days of the internet, Lots of people saw it as a fad, a passing trend. They didn't get the underlying power of what was being built.
Absolutely. And the ones who really understood it, who saw the potential early on, they were the ones who ended up shaping the future.
Exactly. And it feels like we're at a similar point with Bitcoin and this whole decentralized technology space. So much potential, so much still being figured out.
It's an exciting time to be involved, that's for sure.
It really is. So for our listeners who are feeling that excitement, who are ready to dive deeper, what would you recommend? Where should they go from here?
Well, the first thing I'd say is, don't just take anyone's word for it, not mine, not anyone's. Do your own research. Read from a variety of sources and start experimenting. There are so many resources available online, and the best way to learn is often by doing.
That's great advice. Don't just be a spectator, get in the game.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask questions, to challenge assumptions. The more you learn about the technology, the better equipped you'll be to navigate this new landscape.
That's a perfect note to end on. This has been an amazing deep dive, really eye-opening. And for our listeners, we'll be sure to link to all the sources we mentioned in the show notes so you can explore these ideas further.
My pleasure. Always happy to talk Bitcoin.
Thanks for joining us. And to everyone listening, keep those brains engaged, keep asking those tough questions, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.